right. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Adventures in DevOps. We've got a smaller panel here today, but I have no doubt it's still going to be fantastic.
This episode is sponsored by Gravitational. As your team and cloud infrastructure grows, you may want to reevaluate how you access SSH servers and Kubernetes clusters. Gravitational Teleport is an emerging open source replacement for OpenSSH, which was built for modern cloud workflows. Teleport is opinionated. It does not allow SSH keys, and instead it insists on certificate-based authentication, making it dead easy to set up and use. Teleport is fully compatible with your SSH and Kubernetes tooling, comes with a beautiful web UI and an audit log, and it allows users to access servers outside of data centers like IoT devices. It was called Teleport because it creates the illusion that all your company's servers are in the same room with you, even if some of them are self-driving vehicles. Download Teleport on gravitational.com/teleport or find it on github.com/gravitational/teleport.
I'm Nell Shamrell Harrington. I'm a senior staff research engineer at Mozilla. And with me today is my guest, Alex. Alex, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, happy to be here. I have an interesting story. Let's say I was born and raised in Greece, in Athens, and my mother was French. So I decided that before my 30s, I wanted to go live in France. So that's where I'm based right now. And I started off as a electrical and computer engineer, working in Nokia in Athens in the telco industry. Did some really cool projects on 5G related work in SDN. And then I wanted to do more product-based work and more business facing work. So I did a couple of years in business analysis here in France. And then I just recently joined Canonical as a product manager, and now I'm handling our portfolio for the data center. Some of my products are Kubernetes, Ceph, the Linux kernel. I'm also leading the telco initiative based on my background, and a bunch of other smaller products like LifePatch and OVN.
Awesome.
So it's really exciting to be part of Canonical. I was always working with open source, so it's nice to be on the other side of the fence.
Awesome. Well, we are very glad to have you here. And looks like another panelist just joined us. Scott, how's it going?
Good. Hey, how are you?
Doing fantastic.
Hey, Scott. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Alex.
All right. And Alex, when we were putting together a prep doc for the show, I noticed mentioned MicroK8s. That's MicroK8s.
Yes.
We had a discussion prior to recording about whether it was MicroK8s or MicroKubernetes. For something so small, if it has micro in it, MicroK8s certainly makes more sense. Tell us a little bit more about MicroK8s.
So MicroK8s is a one command install of Kubernetes. So you just type snap install MicroK8s and you get your Kubernetes, and you can get it everywhere on your workstation. It's super lightweight. It comes prepackaged with a bunch of really cool add-ons or tools. You can bring up the dashboard. You can do network configuration. You can do multi-node clustering. We're currently working on having the HA ready to add to our production storyline, and also the strict confinement part, which is really important for security, of course. Before I joined Canonical, I need to be honest here, I had very little hands-on experience on Kubernetes. So I was using Docker a little bit, spinning up a few containers and stuff. I was working with a bunch of engineers that were having to manage multiple containers to run our applications on top of them. But I was kind of reluctant to get my hands dirty because, as I told you in the beginning, I was kind of drifting away from purely engineering towards the business side. But when I got the assignment of Kubernetes here in Canonical, I was fascinated with the fact that everything that I've learned throughout the years in theory was so easy to do with MicroK8s. Like this is a plain user could just read the basic tutorial, install it, and then you get your dashboard, you get your worker nodes. Everything is like one command away from having a full Kubernetes cluster. And that's really what appeals to me to the solution on a personal level. So yeah, I think it's a really nice way to get people onboarded on Kubernetes. It really lowers the barrier, as we say, of entry to Kubernetes. And it can be essentially used for, like, if you want to use it on your workstation to play around with the Kubernetes, if you want to do some proof of concepts, if you want to have it as part of your CI/CD pipeline, you can just bring it on, spin up your VMs, and then shut it all down to save your battery, which is great.
That's awesome. I meant when I first heard about it, I thought it was something like Minikube, meant for local development, but it sounds like it can be used to manage as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know our main developer, Cause, is I think he's friends with some of the people out there in the Minikube project. I think we take what the community did and take it a step forward. So it's really not just having a simple version of Kubernetes from the upstream. It's packaged in a way that it's super simple. It's very lightweight. It can be used in a resource restricted environments as well, like on the edge. So we want to have MicroK8s positioned for production as well.
So I have a question. So is Charmed Kubernetes, which is also a Canonical product as well, is that meant to just be more of a management tool, or is that actually like another implementation of Kubernetes?
So yeah, we consider this being kind of a different flavor of Kubernetes. It's essentially our big enterprise offering. So if you want a simple Kubernetes on rail, we will point you towards MicroK8s. If you want to have a big Kubernetes that can have like customization capabilities, you get to choose your add-ons and your plugins or your CNIs and your CSIs. I think that your best solution would be Charmed Kubernetes. I guess you already know it's based on our Juju lifecycle automation tool. You have these things called charms, which are essentially our version of Kubernetes operators. And we bundle all the Kubernetes components in charms, and you can just deploy charm Kubernetes with a single command. Again, so it's facilitating a lot and abstracting a lot of the complexity that Kubernetes inherently has from the end users.
Sounds like it works well across clouds as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest selling points that we have is the workload portability. So it's inherently difficult to say, if you're a developer, you're writing your applications on local, you need to move them through your CI/CD, do the testing, and then you want eventually to move them to production. So that is or still difficult with Kubernetes. And then you have the other part of the complexity where you have an on-prem data center where you do your full life cycle of your application there, and then you want to move it to a public cloud, for example, or you have a multi-cloud setup or a hybrid cloud setup, and you want to be able to move whatever workload you're developing across the whole spectrum. So this is really difficult. And Charm Kubernetes is really our answer to that problem.
What kinds of customers do you have using MicroK8s and Charm Kubernetes?
So I'm not sure that I would be naming some of the biggest customers, but I will. I can speak to the verticals. So,
perfect.
For example, we have. Let's start with something lighter. So, like we have some fashion industry players. Of course, telcos, which I'm part of the whole telco initiative. We have companies in the insurance market. We have manufacturing, transportation, FinServe as well. Just from the top of my head, I would say these are the main verticals that we address.
Sounds like you've got a large breadth of industries there. And
yes, so
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So essentially, what we do is we leverage the really great story that Ubuntu is on its own, because Ubuntu is used everywhere, and it's really one of the most used OSs that containers run on top, for example, or even as a host OS on VMs. So that's kind of opens a lot of doors for conversation with companies, and this is how we have such a diverse portfolio.
That sounds fantastic. Ubuntu is, as you say, certainly used just about everywhere. I use it for my servers and other things. So that's cool that you can leverage that Ubuntu is so well known and help people come into this new world of containers, Kubernetes, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. So, by the way, yesterday we celebrated the launch of our latest Ubuntu version, 2004 LTS. So I don't know if you were aware of this, but we're super proud. Like everybody was working very, very hard to make this happen. It was a big launch yesterday, and we're definitely looking forward for the feedback from the community.
So any big features with this release that you want to highlight?
So this release, it's all about security and performance. So I can speak to some of the cool things that, for example, the kernel brings. So we have like the FS Verity tool. We did a really big benchmark on multiple public clouds, like Amazon, a bunch of Amazon machine flavors, and we saw that the boot time has been reduced, the SSH availability has been reduced, so that's really nice to see. And essentially, 2004 brings a lot of improvements, both on the desktop side, on the server side as well. We're really excited to have the outreach that we do, and we are definitely working towards having this as the best possible operating system.
That's great. I noticed. I know that. One of the things I've heard people is like, oh yeah, this version is still has the old version of Python. So I noticed that you do have 3.8 on there. So that's great as well.
Yeah.
And Perl 5. PHP 7.4, Golang, all nice updates.
Yeah.
Something I've always loved about Ubuntu is the major releases always have cute animal names, and it looks like 2004 is Focal 5, which is a cat-like predator.
Exactly. Yes, I think it's from Madagascar. I need to double check again, but I think it's from Madagascar. The fossa. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I absolutely love the new kind of more purple theme, which still fades out to orange, but I love the work that our design team did.
Yeah, it's always been a big highlight of Ubuntu. It's really nice design.
So bringing things back a little bit to MicroK8s, and do you say Charm Kubernetes or Charmed K8s?
You can say both.
You can say, but okay,
Yeah.
I'll call it Charm Kubernetes. It just feels a little better.
Yeah,
What kind of
sure.
workloads are people running using it?
So mainly it would be IT workloads. So for example, databases like Mongo or Postgres or MySQL or Cassandra. You can do other stuff or other things on IT workloads might be logging, monitoring and alerting applications like Graylog, Prometheus, Grafana, Elastic, and then others like Kafka, or even we have some telco specific workloads like the OSM, the management and orchestration application for telcos. Then we can do, of course, AI ML. You can do your AI training on there. You can do website scale out if you want to add more power to your website and add more instances. You can do it on K8s. You can do distributed systems or just various networking functions like we have with the telecommunication industry, the virtual networking functions, VNFs as they call them.
Early in my career, I figured out which jobs were worth working at and which ones weren't, mostly by trial and error. I created a system that I used to find jobs and later contracts as a freelancer. If you're looking for a job or trying to figure out where you should go next, then check out my book, The Max Coder's Guide to Finding Your Dream Developer Job. The book walks you through figuring out what you want, vetting companies that meet your criteria, meeting that company's employees, and getting them to recommend you for a job. Don't settle for whoever has listed their job on the job board. Go out and proactively find the job you'll love. Buy the book at devchat.tv/jobbook. That's devchat.tv/jobbook.
Broadening from Kubernetes a little bit, I know one of the other products you work on is Ceph. Did I say that right? CEPH?
Yeah.
Tell us a little more about Ceph.
Okay, so Ceph is a software-defined storage solution. It's essentially, the benefit of it is that you no longer need to have a closed source big rack of disks with a closed source software running on top of it that would provide you with your storage. So what Ceph does is it can create clusters on top of commodity storage hardware. So you can have your spinning disks, you can have your NASs, you can have you name it. Like any commodity storage hardware can be clustered into a Ceph cluster, and it also provides various APIs to expose object, block, and file system capabilities, which is really powerful because essentially with Ceph you get one solution that can address all the different types of storage needs you might have. So that's really cool. It has native integration with OpenStack. Can still be deployed as a standalone. You can have it in conjunction with an iSCSI gateway, so it's really powerful. You can connect it to any other solution that you might have. What else can I say? And yeah, there's of course there's the self-healing aspect that's really powerful. They're using some algorithmic hashing mechanisms to ensure that the data is protected from failure, and they're actually really actively working towards performance optimization. So I'm really looking forward what the Ceph upstream community would bring to the table with regards to that, because essentially the blockers are either IOPS or networking restrictions for the performance of a storage cluster, and I know the community is working towards finding solutions for that.
Tell me a little more about the self-healing capabilities. I'm quite intrigued by that.
So I won't say that I know all the deep technical details of it, but in kind of a simplified manner, I know what they do is they take the files, they break them down into smaller pieces that are distributed across the cluster, in a way that's kind of, if you lose some of these, let's say, file replicas, the cluster is capable of either moving the files from a failed node of the cluster elsewhere in a kind of seamless manner, or even kind of get back the data that has been harmed due to the fact that it's so well distributed. I hope I did it justice, because it's highly sophisticated, though, the way that they do it. They're using the crush algorithm, as they call it, and it's super fascinating to understand all the intricacies of it.
So can you tell us a little more about how some of the different Ubuntu products integrate with OpenStack? It's funny, one of our other co-hosts, he has a big OpenStack background, but I don't. So it's a shame he's missing this episode.
Sure. So OpenStack essentially can be your backbone, can be your compute, can be your networking. Of course, it's one of the go-to storage solutions for your OpenStack would be Ceph, for example. Then there's the native solution from OpenStack, which is Swift. But if you want kind of a more versatile storage solution, you would be integrating it with Ceph. So our vision is our version of OpenStack is called Charmed OpenStack, which is, again, leveraging the automation capabilities, the lifecycle automation capabilities of Juju with Charms that can easily bundle all these various OpenStack components, and then both ease the deployments and all the day one and day two operations that somebody might want to do on the OpenStack cluster. And Ceph can be deployed on next to the OpenStack cluster with the same way. So we have a Charm Ceph offering, let's say, as well. On top of the OpenStack, you can, of course, run your Kubernetes. So you can have your infrastructure. You can spin up your VMs and have your containers running on top, for example. So Charm Kubernetes works really well as in conjunction to Charmed OpenStack. What else can I say? I'm not fully aware of any other integrations that we are doing on OpenStack. So I think these are the two highlights. So using OpenStack with Ceph and using OpenStack with Kubernetes can really be beneficial, because you get a really premium quality open source software-defined storage solution. And then you can also kind of achieve resource optimization by combining OpenStack and Kubernetes, and essentially splitting your resources into virtual machines, and then running your applications on containers on top of these virtual machines, which is something that we do regularly for most of our customers, by the way.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Can you tell me a little bit more about Juju, which you've mentioned a couple of times?
Yeah, so of course, before joining Canonical, I wasn't really aware of Juju, but I've been hearing a lot about it during the months that I've been here, and to me it sounds fascinating, because what it does, it's essentially enable. So Juju is the controller, let's say, and what you will be doing with Juju is you need to wrap your applications around a piece of code that essentially encapsulates all the logic and all the relationships that are needed in order to run day 0 to day 2 operations. So let's take a simple example. You have your master node in Kubernetes, and in order to deploy it, there's of course need of a lot of configuration. So instead of running that configuration manually, you could wrap your master node as an application. Like consider the master node as a single application. You can write a piece of code that can handle all the intricacies of deploying that master node. So the only thing that you will eventually need to do after you have this charmed master node component is to say juju deploy master, and everything else gets handled seamlessly. So what will happen is that you can have a lot of these charms put together in a bundle, and this kind of makes a deployment of a large set of application really easy. And then with Juju, you get all the primitives, and we call them actions. You can do Juju upgrade Kubernetes cluster, for example. So you just need to have some people that know the details of the operations to write the wrapper code. And then for the end users, everything is really simple. So what is really very interesting to me with Juju is that it kind of helps abstract all this complexity, because I'm just a business. I don't need to care about how to deploy my Kubernetes. I know that I need to because I understand the benefits of it, but I shouldn't be caring about how to deploy it, how to upgrade it, how to change configures or whatever. So what I need to have is a database that's running within a container, because that's what my business needs. So what we want to enable our users to do is to focus on their business logic. And we think Juju is the greatest way to do it.
So let me see if I can clarify what's going on in my head. So Charmed is Canonical's like application store, right? So that ostensibly that's where you can get applications and start. It's a little bit of a package manager as well, right? Is that a fair assessment?
So saying that it's a package manager is not incorrect.
Okay.
But then it's so much more.
Sure.
So you can do a Helm deployment of an application, but you could not do a Helm upgrade. And then if you could do it, you would need to do Helm upgrade for every applications that are dependent on the application that you initially wanted to upgrade. So Juju does all this seamlessly. So if I was to upgrade my database, which was talking, for example, to my log collector, how would the log collector know that, oh, now database has a new version, so I better follow up on that, because then I won't be able to talk to my database anymore. So if that relationship is captured within the code of the two charms, everything happens seamlessly. So Juju would know that, oh, now that we've triggered the upgrade of the database, I better upgrade all the dependent components. So that's really an additional level of complexity that we are abstracting from the end users.
And so Juju, all right, so I'm sitting here looking at what's available online. So this is something that you can deploy into the public cloud. You can deploy to Rackspace, OpenStack, all these things, right?
Yeah.
There's also this visual like modeling tool that's in there. And so obviously I don't have any experience with it, but is there some kind of underlying kind of like YAML configuration that you can use to do this manually, or is there like an SDK around this? I guess I'm curious.
So yes, there is indeed a visualizing tool. Let's say you could create. Well, we already have charmers within Canonical that help write, let's say, reference charms for people to use already. But I actually did create a charm myself, and I was super proud. No, not a charm, but a bundle. So a collection of charms that I grouped within something that made sense to be grouped in order to deploy it. So what I had to do, I couldn't write the charm myself. If I had more Python skills, for example, I definitely could. But I could easily go onto the GUI of Juju and say, okay, what do I want to do? I want to deploy the simplest form of a Ceph cluster that I could get. So I basically need two charms. I need the Ceph monitoring charm and the Ceph, a basic Ceph OSD charm. So I could easily drag and drop the two little icons that represent the charms, say that, okay, I need them to talk to each other, of course. And then behind the scenes, there was a YAML file that was created. And then I could either open that YAML file and switch the configuration of what I just created as a bundle. And then when I was happy with it, I could just go onto a machine and say, Juju deploy the name of my bundle. And magic happened afterwards.
Yeah, so there's clearly this bundling piece, there's modeling, and it seems like it's a different kind of approach to configuration management and also
exactly,
deployment automation, and it's a lot.
We say two things. We say application modeling because, of course, you have your application, you encapsulate it within another layer of code that helps model all the lifecycle operations that you want to do, and its relationships with other applications. And then I also really like the term application lifecycle automation because it's exactly that. So with a simple Juju command, you can execute actions that are necessary for the whole application's lifecycle.
Gotcha. So yeah, because most of my day-to-day work surrounds infrastructure as code and automation and stuff like that. So this is like right in the stuff that's like very much on
absolutely
every day, all day. So very cool.
If you haven't tried out and you're working on infrastructure as code, you definitely should. It's open source, so you can go ahead and do it. We'll appreciate your feedback if you do.
Yeah, it's great. It seems great. So I'll have to explore it more for sure.
Yeah, we actually quite recently launched a new way of writing charms, which is a pure Python operator framework. We call it operator framework because we want to be conformant to what the market is saying. So people say operators, we call them charms, but charms are operators. They're just pieces of code that can do operations on top of an application. So it's pure Python, and it's even more clean than what it was before. So if you have basic Python understanding and some expertise on a specific application, you definitely can write a charm.
So staying on the subject of Charmed and bringing in some of your telco experience in, I know you also work on Charmed OSM. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yes, absolutely. So OSM is a telco specific application, let's say. So within telco architecture, it's the management and orchestration layer that takes care of networking function lifecycle. So in the past, the telcos essentially were selling, again, big racks with everything was proprietary with legacy monolithic proprietary software to accommodate one function within a massive landscape that was the whole network. So this is no longer the way to do things. We are getting closer and closer to having cloud native applications. People have understood the need to have microservices and applications broken down into small components that are more manageable, maintainable, and portable. So the whole approach of I need a big piece of hardware that has one specific task, let's say, and I need hundreds and hundreds of these different hardwares that do one thing is no longer sustainable. So telcos, even though got in that game quite later than the IT industry, are now starting to really go towards what they call virtual network functions, so VNFs. So what I described before, so one old rack with one piece of legacy software was one network function. So now they're breaking down these monolithic functions into microservices, and then they're running it in the cloud. So you get many more applications nowadays, so a lot of many more workloads, and somebody needs to manage them. So OSM does exactly that. And Charmed OSM is again leveraging the power of charms for the application lifecycle automation. It's around 12 charms, so that represent the 12 applications that make OSM upstream on its own. Actually, a Juju controller is one of these upstream applications. We're really proud of that. And we are working with the OSM community to help, first and foremost, onboard more VNFs, because it's actually quite difficult to see use cases of open source VNFs, because most telcos are keeping their VNFs as closed source. So we're trying to help the adoption of OSM and to make telcos understand the power of the open source and the flexibility that it brings. And also to actually make OSM a better product. So quite recently, we took the work of upstreaming the entire set of charms that we have for OSM. So that's already done. And we're also participating in hackathons. We have regular discussions with the big players. There are many, I think there are 12 big telecom operators that make part of the OSM community, and we're super excited about working with them.
Are you freelancing or moonlighting? Or maybe you've thought about going out on your own? Every week, we have a group of developers at various stages of the freelancing journey on the Freelancer Show to talk about becoming better at freelancing. We also bring in experts to talk about marketing, SEO, and delivering high quality to clients. So if you're interested in going freelance or you are freelance, check it out at freelancershow.com.
I'm kind of curious, has Canonical been working with telcos for a long time? You know, I guess I don't have a whole lot of experience in the telco world, but I'm kind of curious to know a little more how they kind of got involved in this, and you know.
So I'm not sure if you had joined, Scott, when I said this.
You did. I did hear your background. Your background is mostly telco and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. So I was working in Nokia in Athens. So Nokia is another provider for the telco operators. But the thing is with Canonical is that really we are. The whole Ubuntu story is opening a lot of doors for discussions with essentially any vertical. So telco is one really important vertical because they relatively recently realized the power of moving to that whole cloud native stack, if you will. So we are in constant communication with them. I cannot tell you like historically when did this started, but my experience shows that this has been an ongoing discussion for multiple years now. Gotcha. And it's good to see that they moved from this legacy monolithic approach to the microservice architecture, because it's really the modern way of writing software and providing services on top.
Gotcha.
Awesome. Well, there's one more topic I want to talk about before we move on to picks at the end of the episode, and that is, I understand you also work on canonical live patch service. Can you tell us some more about that?
Yeah, so it's fairly simple. Live patch is a way to patch your kernel for significant security fixes while your system is live, and it stays live while the patching is happening. So live patch is a service. You just have a subscription for it. Well, to be exact, if you're just a simple user, that service is available for free. If you're an enterprise, then you need to have a specific subscription. And essentially what happens is every user or workstation gets a token that kind of helps authenticate with the central canonical live patch server, and then it's kind of a push and pull relationship. So the live patch server knows who is subscribed to the service, and then whenever a security patch is available, it just pushes it towards the machine. So it's really aligned with Canonical's vision of security first, really. So I'm using it on my workstation, my laptop for free, and I think it's one of the best practices for any average user to use it, because this is the way to ensure that your kernel is always up to date on the latest security issues. And then, of course, for the companies, it's a no-brainer that they would be. They want to stay secured, so I think it's a really important service offering.
Cool, very cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I love the idea of being able to update my systems without rebooting them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you for the great conversation. Scott, was there anything else you wanted to ask?
No,
on to picks?
I'm good.
All right. Well, at the end of each show, each of us mentions one or two things that we found useful over the week. They can be technical tools, they can be non-technical tools, they can be just about anything. So I'll go ahead and start. And my pick for this episode is Powell's Bookstore in Portland, Oregon. I went to high school in downtown Portland, St. Mary's Academy, right in the middle of downtown there. So Powell's was where I got a lot of my books that I used for classes. And I've since moved up to Seattle, over 10 years ago. But anytime I'm down visiting my parents in the Portland area, I always make a trip to Powell's. So I was very sad when I heard that Powell's, I knew they had to close their live bookstores, but they had laid off their entire staff. They really didn't have any choice in doing that. But the response from people in ordering by mail, because they're still sending books by mail, you can still order from them, was so great. They were able to hire back a decent portion of their staff. So highly recommend them. It's a fantastic independent bookstore. Highly recommend supporting them. If you've got the cash, you can get some great books. I bought the entire Witcher series, among some other things. Now that I've seen the show, I want to read the books. And that is my pick. So Scott, over to you.
Cool. So it was funny because I was thinking over the years, I have gotten, as I would search for solutions and then try to whatever, obviously I'm trying to learn some programming concept or software deployment type thing, and or seeing, like watching videos of other people doing talks on things. And what's happened is in the last 4 or 5 years, I've gotten to where I really, really use YouTube as like a kind of a constant resource. Some for entertainment, but mostly I use it a lot for work now. And so I actually kind of made the switch and decided that I was going to pay for a YouTube subscription. It's only like $10 a month or whatever. And I ended up moving, whenever I was like, maybe I should be a little smarter about some of my spending, I ended up moving off Spotify to use YouTube Music, because it was kind of all, it's all kind of together, and there's some services out there you can migrate playlists. So kind of that's my pick. One of the advantages of paying for it is that you eliminate all the commercials, and so it just, like you can't, if you're going to sit there and watch stuff, you can't be like spend 5 minutes being interrupted by commercials or whatever. So for me, it's been a really important part of like how I learn and like how I do things at work and stuff like that. So I figured I'd just give that a plug. So that's my pick for the week.
Cool. It sounds really interesting. I'm still on Spotify, but I'm open to any suggestions. I was on YouTube, kind of helped me browse a lot of music in the past, but I wanted to be more like organized with my music, so Spotify was the way to go. But yeah, I hear you.
It would be hard for me to give up my Spotify playlist that I've curated over the years.
I was surprised at how well they migrated over.
Oh, they migrate?
Yeah, so I found some service that it was free, and it would allow you to just connect Spotify and YouTube, and you could migrate them one at a time. I mean, it was not, I wouldn't say it was like I did lose a few things here and there, but I don't know. I realized I didn't care that much. I was just like, I was probably a paying member of Spotify for probably like 8 or 9 years. It just, just trying
I'm kind of a neat freak, so lists are kind of my thing. I'm almost ashamed to say that I did a manual migration from YouTube to Spotify, so the other way around, 5 years ago. And then just considering the amount of work, it took me a week, like probably 2 or 3 hours a day to do it. So yeah, I'm kind of reluctant to just go back because I'm afraid what's going to happen.
I hear you.
Yeah. So my picks, to be honest, I didn't really prepare or give it any thought before the podcast, but I was thinking about maybe providing some suggestions for spending quality time during this whole pandemic thing. But then I remembered that it should have been something with technology. So I would say 3 things. I recently discovered the beauty of terminal cast application that is also available on Ubuntu. So I've already used it. It's called ASCII Nima with double I in the middle. So with this, you can kind of record your terminal. We're all kind of around engineering, so it's super useful because you can have a demo, and then when you publish your recording somewhere, people can actually copy paste from that video that's playing. So that's really a cool thing to have. So that's kind of my 2 cents on things that I discover on technology. And then for a good pastime during confinement, I would say I just recently finished a really cool book called Don't Make Me Think. It's about web usability, and it cannot be simpler to understand like how people should design for the web. Honestly, highly recommended. It's super small as well. I think the guy did a usability optimization of his own book, by the way, which make it like even more fun to read. And then in terms of things to watch, also I just finished the 2 new episodes of Last Dance, the Michael Jordan and Bulls documentary on Netflix.
Nice.
This is So it brings up really cool memories of the 90s and the whole Bulls era. So yeah. And this is coming from a Lakers fan, by the way.
Nice. Yeah, I'm definitely interested to see that. I'm not a huge basketball fan, but of course was super impressed by his whole career.
Yeah, it's actually, besides the basketball aspect, you see some clear highlights and indications of a person that's extremely smart, extremely talented, and then you can understand just by watching him like behave within the basketball court of this guy is a super entrepreneur right now. So it kind of makes sense. Like he's behaving like this during his 20s. Now he has 40 years of experience on his shoulders. So yeah,
totally. Yeah, I think Shaq, LeBron, Jordan, and Magic Johnson are all vying for the title of like the world's most successful post-career athlete.
Yeah, there's another guy that is a strong contender, and I'm so sad of his passing. Of course, I'm talking about Kobe.
Yeah,
but
Kobe. Yeah.
Anyway, it's a really cool thing to watch.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. Alex, thanks so much for the conversation. It's great to meet you.
Yes.
Thanks for having me. It was a real pleasure, guys.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex. Thank you. Take care.
All right. Take care, everyone.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bandwidth for this segment is provided by CacheFly, the world's fastest CDN. Deliver your content fast with CacheFly. Visit CACHEFLY.com to learn more.